Hi, and welcome to The Sacred We, the podcast where we teach and guide you into the practice of sacred relationship, which is using the very medium of the relationship for your own awakening, which means higher levels of health, so that the relationship you have with your partner isn't your biggest pain, it's your deepest pleasure. The topic that we're going to go into today is really juicy because it's can be one of the most frustrating, defeating places when you aren't sure how to meet each other. One of the biggest desires that I've watched with women over the years that Courtney and I have seen with couples is women want to feel their partner. They want them to open up, but maybe not quite sure in how to make that happen. And so there can be this pain on both sides. And we're going to go into the depth of that pain on both sides and give you the tools of what a man actually needs to be able to open. I'm going to hit three key topics today. Number one is the emotional inspection versus the safe harbor. Number two, decoding the silence, and it's not what you think. Number three, the secret currency. Respect precedes vulnerability. This is a topic that feels necessary because it shows up in almost with every man that I've ever worked with. And I've been a part of Men's Circle for over 10 years. One of the biggest pains for men is they want to open up. They're trying to open up. They're trying so hard to open up, but they're unable to. And women want him to. They're trying so hard to find out the right ingredients to offer the man so that he will. And it's this confusing part on both sides because the woman wants it, he wants it, but the ingredients aren't there. It's just not working. And what I found is this is a cultural piece. No one is bad or wrong. There is such a learning of the difference. And a big intention of this episode is to get to know the inner workings of a man so you, as his partner, know what's actually happening there and what you could do differently to get both of your needs met.
And we do always whenever we're talking about man, woman, we like to preface that we also understand that gender itself is on a spectrum. And so there might be aspects of this that really resonate. And there might be aspects where you have to feel, where am I on the spectrum? You know, how much does this resonate for me as a man? We are speaking in generalities, and it's because this is what we see a lot. But we also just want to acknowledge there can be diversity within the experience as well. And so one of the roles that I'm going to be playing today, because I'm also curious, this is something I'm also still learning about, is learning about as a feminine, how to relate with the masculine, and even just starting to become more aware that Mike, there is a different experience. And I've been so grateful to have you as my partner, because not only am I learning about you and you're teaching me about you and helping me understand, but you also work with men and are helping me understand men. And just to paint a picture, one of the biggest gifts of my life too has been doing couples work with Mike, because I've been a therapist for a long time. And it wasn't until I started working with Mike that I started to watch men who before I would have thought, oh, he doesn't want to do the work, he's closed down, he doesn't want to open up. And it wasn't until I started working with Mike and I watched him be able to support men to open that I never would have thought would have opened. I never would have thought that I was paying attention. I was like, oh, I want to learn about this. I want to learn what Mike is seeing and understanding about men that I'm not understanding. And that what in my experience in the therapy world hasn't been understanding. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm curious, can you share a little bit about this emotional inspection versus the safe harbor?
What I've watched in my own lived experience is where there's normal relating happening and there's just inquiry or curiosity or care. I can feel how deeply women care and want the best for men. And how it's received is very different. So, it really makes me think. I'm actually going to go to this one place in my own development, where when I was a kid, my oldest sister, who's 10 years older than me, cared so much about me. And she would ask lots of questions and want to come in and support a lot. And with her inquiries, I noticed, especially during my teenage years, her questions felt like interrogation, felt like how it landed inside of me was she doesn't believe in me, she doesn't trust me. And I would then kind of forgive over my power and believe that she knew better than I did. Now there's a power dynamic because it's 10 years difference and it's a little unique, but
this comes up in our relationship.
yeah. And it happens with
Yeah.
almost every man that I've ever worked with. And I've sat in men's circle for over 10 years. And there's a pattern here that I watch. When a man is receiving inquiry of questions like this, hey, what's wrong? Hey, are you okay? Which is a common one that I'd say women ask their partner when they feel him a little distant or reserved.
What are you feeling? I do that one.
Yes.
And whenever I've done that in therapy, Mike's like, don't do that. What are you doing?
Yeah, don't ask that question. Don't ask him that question.
What?
And I want everyone to understand this when often, and again, find your own orientation of gender. I'm just using my experience and the patterns that I've seen the most familiar with the men that I've worked with. Being asked that question feels like interrogation. Feels like getting pulled over in the highway and the cop is, do you know how fast you were going? Immediately there's survival. It's being perceived as an audit of performance. It's feeling as if it's a performance review. And
which I want to say, for many women inside, we are assessing for performance. Like a part of us.
Yeah.
A part of us. Do you know what you're feeling?
Yeah.
Are you aware of what you're feeling? What's going on in there?
Yeah. Which appropriate inquiry, and there's a place because of what's happened culturally. There's a different approach that leads to the answers to those questions that gives a man space to find his power in it.
This is what I've been learning about.
A lot of women will ask those questions and come in for leading with the care and the curiosity and wanting to know the answer, but maybe not able to hold the amount of space and the presence that's required for him to find the truth in what is being asked of him, to then hand it over. And so his nervous system is going into defense strategy. It's not feeling safe. It goes into, oh no. What happens inside of a man is, what is? So let's say the question is, hey, what's wrong? What's happening inside of him is, I don't know. Oh God, I don't know. So nothing's wrong. The immediate defense of not wanting to be seen in the weakness and the vulnerability.
And of course, I just want to add, women I just was leading something on this last night about the oracle, bringing the oracle to him, because women are more in touch with the subtleties relationally. They will tend to notice things like that sooner.
Yeah. And that's terrifying for a man because he's in the practice of, culturally, women are wanting men to be more open and vulnerable. Men are wanting that too. And we're learning how that happens. Culturally, and I'm going to share this experience. When I'm leading an event and there's a bunch of men in front of me and I ask, how many of you felt like it wasn't okay to just be yourself? Let's say in school, where you shared a more vulnerable part of yourself and maybe you got shamed or criticized of, terms that many men have heard of. You're a pussy, you're a fag. Oh, that's gay. Like common. And so when they were expressing vulnerably, it immediately got met with criticism, shame, and judgment, and then they shut down. So I, share, hey, how many of you are familiar with that? All the hands go up. Maybe one hand is down. And so how culture has held the vulnerability of a man's heart hasn't been held very well. And so all these defenders happen. And so he's sitting in there. He wants to answer. He doesn't even know. This is the big key to understand. When a man hears, hey, what's wrong? he goes, scans and goes, I don't know. Oh no, I don't know. That's perceived inside of his nervous system without him even knowing yet. That's vulnerability. That's not safe. Protect. So now it's withdraw, it's defend, it's deflect, it's fine, nothing. And then he'll want to leave. He'll want to jet. But that's just because of the conditioning. It's not what he's actually wanting to do.
Oh, and that right there, I thought that when men did that, it was a sign that they didn't want to share, they didn't want to go deeper, and I was walking around with the story inside that men didn't want to. Or there were a few men who did, but the majority of men just don't want to. Until you started helping me understand that you would behave that way, and then you would tell me later, I wanted to connect with you, but I couldn't. And then it started to shift this something in me of this understanding of, right, there is a longing inside of men. Can you tell us about that, the part that does long, or how you see this in other men?
Every man that I've ever met has this deep inner drive to offer over and provide everything that is wanted. The emotional safety, the financial providership, all of it. He wants to so bad.
And he wants to connect.
And he wants to connect.
Why does he
wants to share? And he wants to, because the connection is also what he's looking for. So many men are feeling lonely inside. Mm-hmm. And so they want the connection. Some part of them knows they need connection. They just aren't sure how to do it. And so when they try doing it, if the vulnerability gets hit and the defenders come online, there's so much happening inside of them that most men aren't even aware of. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that, oh, now I'm triggered. Oh, now I'm dissociating. Oh, now, whoa, I'm numb. I don't even know that I'm not feeling. Most men don't even know what's happening in their body. They're just in the protection of, if I don't pass this performance view, I'm going to lose the thing I need more than anything. And it's the connection, the respect, and the trust of my partner.
The connection, the respect, and the
trust.
Mm-hmm.
Those are
so they're in fight or flight. Like, we've put them into fight or flight in that moment.
Total fight or flight.
Yeah.
Because the thing that brings them into
I've been very good at that. I've been an expert at that.
Yeah. We're all learning. They're looking, when a man can feel those three ingredients, feel the connection, there's enough space and safety for him to drop into his own heart, and there's respect and trust, he will share. Mm-hmm. And this is taking me years just in my own journey to figure out, why can't I connect? Why can't I offer the thing? When I think of my past marriage, I wanted to, I tried. And you know what I did? Is I read hundreds of books. I read hundreds of books, listening to podcasts, doing the things. And it wasn't leading to me opening up. I couldn't do it because I didn't know these pieces. It's a biological body response thing, and men default to logic. And so if they're popping up into logic, they're trying to now find a way in their head to earn the trust and the respect and the space for them to feel connected.
Well, and then, of course, when the feminine is trying to explain to him what she wants from him, she's not wanting anything from the head. And this is where you can see it gets, right? Like, because the more she feels like he's not feeling and she can't feel him, the more she comes at him with the questions. And
sometimes criticism.
Yeah.
Just going to name it.
Yeah.
Often there's a frustration of not being emotionally met, and an irritation that I've watched in women who aren't getting the answers or not feeling held because he doesn't even know.
And it's true. They're not being met in some way. They're not being held. It's not that that's not true, right? But it's also the way they're going about.
It's not true, and it will never become true with the way that it's being approached.
Yes, that's right.
Because, example, the way that doesn't work, that's pretty predictable, is, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? Are you mad at me? That's going to lead to defense. Mm-hmm. It's kicking in. I'm in the performance review. His survival brain is doing what it's designed to do. Keep him safe. So all the coping strategies, the numb, the dissociation, the shutdown, all the things we talked about. But if you actually want them to be open and available for connection, it would be different. It would be this. Let's say you're looking at me. The example would be if I'm in the living room and I look stressed or I look sad, it wouldn't be, hey, are you okay? What's wrong? Because I'm going to go into wanting to get out of there because I don't want to be seen as not strong and capable. The way to approach that's going to lead to the possibility of an opening would be mirroring the experience I may not even be aware of. So an example would look like this, and you've done this in certain experiences and it's been so helpful. Hey, you look like you're holding a lot. You look a bit stressed. I just want you to know I totally trust your process and I'm here and I love you so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been learning how to do that. Naming what I'm seeing without requiring anything of you. Like you don't have to answer back or confirm, just naming what I think I'm seeing. Being really spacious and permission giving of that I don't need anything from you right now. Right? You can take space, you can take your time. Yeah.
And the reassurance of the connection.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you say, hey, I totally trust your process. I can see you're in it and I'm just here and I love you. Mm-hmm. I'd love to, and sometimes there's little invitations. Hey, do you want to just sit next together on the couch and breathe? Or my favorite is when you just come and give me connection.
Yeah.
Hand on my back, touch my butt.
I've been learning to do that too. Like I did it even before we started this podcast because we've had a flustery day and maybe I'd like to hear I'm learning how instead of before, if I felt any kind of crunch or stress, I would kind of try to come at it, that must be your pattern or you're in the thing. And what instead I did is I just grounded myself and I looked over and I said, hey, do you want to make eye contact for a second? And then we made eye contact. And for me, that feels like such a different approach than before where I would come at you.
So enjoyable.
Okay, I was curious about that.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it because you're offering over the love, the care, and the mirror of you seeing.
When you did the mirror, can I show you what your face looked like? It was really good enactment. The mirror.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's already a big mirror. Don't add to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm already aware.
Yeah.
Like an example, just for anyone listening, the context is, I just got back from Idaho last night and doing a 2-day VIP experience with a client. And you
led a whole bunch on the weekend.
Led a whole bunch.
Parented by myself and led something last night, the Oracle thing.
While on your moon time.
Yeah.
And so Monday is our day to do this brand and our podcast. And there's so many things that we are responsible for and want to birth and create for all of you listening on the Monday. So Monday's a really important day. And then I get a call.
I locked my keys in the car.
You locked your keys in the car and the phone.
Phone. Yeah.
And so
40 minutes away from home.
And so hours and hours and hours of the day have been orienting around this whole thing. And so that's life. That's life. And it's stressful. Mm-hmm. It's stressful because there's so much I want to show up in. There's so much I want us to create, for our people. And this is super important to us. And so there's stress there, but you just seeing it as that and you offering over the connection and offering over some space and not diving in, hey, this, making it about you as an example and just, hey, eye contact and just being there. That gave me the mirror of, oh yeah, I'm a bit stressed. Oh yeah, it is what it is. And then I get to, and this goes into the second point, the silence, because I'm sure what you experienced was me being silent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right before you go into that one, let's go into it. But I just want to say to everybody listening, that is the key on my end, has been learning that I am feeling something probably before you feel it. And if I just give you a gentle mirror and then give you space to feel what I've been, to feel it without me coming at you, then you have insight about it.
Yeah, sometimes it's before, or sometimes we're both feeling it at the same time.
It's true.
Just the way that I'm navigating it is very different than the way you might navigate it.
Right.
And so this is a perfect segue into the second point, the silence. There can be a lot of story made about the silence from women, for men. What I've noticed is a common pattern, not to say this isn't actually happening some of the time. A lot of the story that I've heard is, oh, he's checking out. That, like, the silence means he's checking out. He doesn't care. He's stonewalling me, whatever. Insert all the reasons. He's withdrawing. He doesn't love me. He doesn't care. Sometimes, yeah, maybe.
Well, and I want to ask you questions about that, but
A lot of the time, he's just in his own experience wanting to protect you from the chaos that's happening inside of him. So he's in there processing the chaos inside of himself because he doesn't want to put it on you. And his process is slow. There's a few reasons here. One reason I've seen is a lot of men didn't have an emotionally available mother enough of the time because she wasn't feeling held, so she couldn't hold her role well. There's just disconnect. And so that the holding of the tenderness of a little boy growing up into his power, there wasn't enough attunement and meeting of that and reassurance and kisses and snuggles and the things that I watched Cedar get.
He gets a lot of kisses.
He gets so many kisses and reassurance and just will go at whatever pace you need to. Like, I sometimes get so irritated that he gets the thing that I know I need I need it to go that slow. And so it can trigger stuff. Anyways, there's often a man just does need to be in the silence to process through all the chaos, to find his strength. And what I've noticed, if I'm seen in my process and trusting of that silence, then I do find it. I will find an insight. I will find a willingness to open up and be vulnerable and share. I will often, if there's a feeling I need to have, I'll have it. And then that feels good when I can make contact with it inside and then bring that to you.
Yeah, it's been so helpful for me now when you'll say, because you'll be in the silence and you'll say something like, I'm just processing, when you start to feel me start to think that you're not seeking. Yeah. And then over time, it's helped me build trust in the silence. And so I'm getting way better at it of just, and realizing, how it's like how you have that thing where if you're approaching a woman, move 3 times slower. This is the female version, which is when he's being silent after you've talked to him about something, you have to wait 3 times longer than you would ever imagine you would have to wait. So it's always when I hit the place of like, okay, he definitely is not processing. I have to wait longer than that. And then it comes. It's way longer than I would ever think. And then it happens. And we watch this with couples, hey, when they're sitting in front of us. And I just had a woman have huge insights about this, where we're watching a couple in an exchange and something's landing in him and he's starting to have awareness, but then the feminine isn't going slow enough to allow him that process. So it's starting to land. He's actually letting it in. He's having an awareness. And then she comes in and cuts it off too fast, and interrupts it with some sort of coming at him about how he's not listening or he's not paying attention or he's not. And it happens a lot. It happens a lot. And it's partly this pacing. Yeah.
And the difference, and this is how I've seen it, is women feeling I'm overgeneralizing because we all have the feminine, masculine polarities inside of us. And I know this in myself. The feminine part of me also needs it in this way. Feminine feeling oriented. So the good old go-to mantra to remember is, hey, when approaching a woman, go 3 times slower than you think you should approach. Like, move 3 times slower. When relating with a man, or the masculine part, give 3 times more space, because masculine energy is becoming, feminine energy is being. So in order to feel the being and the presence and take in all the neuroception of the brain, to take in all the nonverbal, we got to go slower so she can feel it. With men, we got to give enough space for the becoming to emerge, the becoming of the new awareness, the becoming of the insight, the becoming of that part of power. But if it gets stifled, it's like going for intercourse without foreplay. Like a man needs the space for that part to emerge in. That doesn't make him bad or wrong or wounded or that it's trauma. Not that it isn't sometimes. It's just the nature of being man. It's what I've watched time and time again. And this is from years of working with men, sitting in men's circles. I still, knowing all this and being a man and knowing I need it 3 times slower, there's still some moments that I have when I'm working with a man in my 6-month container and I'm sitting in session and we hit a really deep, vulnerable place. I have to remind myself, Mike, move back in your chair. Mike, just give all the space. I've sat there for 7 to 10 minutes sometimes, just in silence, knowing he'll get there. That's taken a lot of work for me to get to it. And you know what's cool? I don't think there's one moment I've had where that amount of space and trusting his process that he'll get it hasn't arrived into something that blew my mind, made us both emotional, and brought me chills.
Right. Well, and what I think is important here, though, is what you're describing is while in connection, right? Because I think for a lot of women, and this is what I want to ask you about, what we're confused about is where we have experienced where men will use that as a way to avoid. And this might be part of the story, right? But the experience where men are avoiding, and they won't go to, and they're avoiding some part of themselves, or they're, because we all have that, right? But what I'm hearing is avoidance would denote there's some sort of disconnect, right? So moving away from each other. But what you're describing here is while connected, having spaciousness. So for example, when you and I are relating and you're being silent and you're taking it in, I'm still right there beside you and I'm not pulling away. I'm not pushing against you and leaving. We're staying in connection, but there's a spaciousness for you to land where you need to land, which is different than avoidance, which is push away, disconnect.
Yes. And there's something that you offer in your physiology because, and I've watched this with so many men, the most consistent pattern is they are sensitive. Like a man's heart, and Alison Armstrong talks about this, that men are almost more sensitive than women, which would match the whole, research of boys being more neurologically fragile than little girls. So if we follow that, my hyper awareness in a place where I might be in distress or feeling disconnected, I'm needing connection. But the thing that's worked with you is I know you've done your work. You've listened to me in the orientation of, hey, I need a bit of space. Hey, I'm processing. Can you back up a little bit? Because you've respected that request and you've done your work, I can feel you back in yourself and authentically offering the trust in my process. I can feel you trusting my process. And when I can see that visceral feedback, like where I look at you, because there's a part where I'm looking at you and you're soft in your face, you're kind of light and you're just doing your own thing, sipping your coffee, and
my tea,
your tea. And I'm taking that information in. I'm feeling respected in my body. I'm feeling respected. I'm feeling trusted. And then I do reach that place of, oh, now I want to open up and share what I have, what I've found in here.
Right. Whereas in the past where I've interrupted this process with other partners and with you is in that silence, I would either come in and want to guide or add something or help you get there faster. So interrupt it, right?
Or label the dynamic.
Yeah.
Oh, here's your avoidance.
Totally. So I would either come at you or I would push away. Oh, fine. You're not going to push away. Mm-hmm. And neither of those is holding the connection for the process to happen. Yeah, I'm getting this.
Yeah. and I know you've had to do a lot of work there. So what can be tricky, and I want to name this because you might be listening to this and thinking, oh, maybe you listen to this and you go to your partner and you do give them all the space and it's still not working. What is important to understand is a man still needs to be doing work. He needs somewhere where he's getting mirrors and reflection. And this is my bold belief, which is why I created the Initiated Man online men's community, is I don't believe a man can really access that deeper becoming without being in relationship with other men. To mirror back, yeah, bro, this is happening to you. Yeah, it is scary. Yeah, your brain is keeping you safe. Yeah, you are withdrawing. If he's seen in his experience and not judged and made bad and wrong, and there's a room of we're going to go slow and safe so you get to know yourself, that turns all that health inside, and he will reach to more understandings, more willingness to take responsibility because of the resource of having other men that helps the development of the becoming happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to name that because there are some men that are stifling their nature and they're playing video games. I watched it, when I was going to the trip to Idaho, and there's a lot of men who are just drinking, video games, doom scrolling, and they're disconnecting from their own inner nature. And so even if you give them lots of space, if they're so lost in themselves, you could give them all the space in the world and it's not going to lead to some relational movement forward.
Well, this is why it's not just space. And this is a lot of the work that I do, is helping women understand there's also a role they have in mirroring back to men and knowing when, and being able to feel when it's avoidance and actually moving towards. There's a whole art to it. We have another podcast talking about how to move towards avoidance. So that would be a good one to check out.
Yeah. So this is so nuanced, and I just want to name this. This is as much information as we can give you in a 45-minute to an hour long podcast. Ultimately, in this place, if the dynamic isn't shifting, support is needed, whatever that looks like. So I just want to name that. If you want to go deeper, go down in the show notes. There's different avenues you can enter in our offers for the actual support. But in respect to this conversation, let's say the man who's doing enough work has this availability. The way you can approach is, to speak to this one where he's in the silence. If the silence is really uncomfortable and you're perceiving it as rejection, go 3 times slower, give him way more space, and maybe just mirror back what you're witnessing. So as an example, something that would feel so good is if you said, like, if I don't have access to it, of telling you, hey, I'm processing, I need some space, we'll circle back later. If I'm not in that level of development yet, what you could offer as a partner to be an ally is, hey, hun, I can see that you're processing right now. Take all the time you need. Why don't we circle back after dinner?
Mm-hmm.
What this does is it's reassuring the connection of what he's needing connection, but he's also needing to be trusted that he'll find whatever he's processing about to get his clarity and his insight, to then want to bring that to the relationship. And what I found is when there's the reassurance of we'll do that later, but you're offering over your gifting of, hey, we're still going to connect because you have this art that you name, we are going to circle back to this. You're not just going to let it drift away and then be pissed and resentful about it.
That's the woman's work, is she has to be really clear about the boundary around that.
Yeah. And you've taught me that. So now that's just in my wiring and I know that, but a lot of men haven't gotten there yet. So if you're listening and this is your situation, you as the woman can say, hey, again, I know you need some time to think about this. I just want you to know I totally trust your process. And I'm so here when you're ready. Why don't we, and then you get to insert the time of when to circle back. Hey, why not right before we go to bed? Let's bring this back up. And then what I've noticed is that will give him the feeling of there's no pressure or expectation. It's more of an invitation. And that invitation and the healthy mirror back that helps him feel and understand what's actually happening for him. It drops him down into his body. his heart is starting to open. And from that connection of his own physiology, that inner wisdom in him that he does have will now be the one driving the bus. Because he's actually feeling safe and respected and trusted in his body, he will want to move back towards connection. And he wants to provide. It's in men's DNA to want to provide the thing that's being asked for when he can feel the trust and the respect.
The respect. Well, and I think the work of the feminine too is it can't just be words. We actually have to find the place of respect and trust for their process. That's the other part. But it can be hard to find if we've felt like we can't trust, or we've had too many experiences of feeling hurt, and that's where it's so tricky, right? But what I have found is there's something about, and I just led this yesterday at the Wellness Festival, there is a place where we can learn how to track for what is trustworthy. Learn to track for, to notice, to scan and get to know where our partner is behaving in a respectful way, and starting to notice that and learn how to scan for that. And, for me, as I've gotten better and better at that with men, now I'm walking around and I'm seeing men in a whole new way. Before I would look at men and I would see where they weren't showing up. And now I'm noticing all these places where they are showing up, even uncomfortable, even, not quite knowing what they're doing, whatever it is, and really seeing it. And it's creating such a sense of respect. But I think for a lot of women, we have to relearn how to see men differently.
Yeah, this is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Is what actually works to turn the health inside of a man on.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to see where a man isn't showing up. It's not just easy for women, it's easy for men. Too easy. There's way too many men that I've sat with that the amount of internalized shame is so high that he can't find enough experiences of his own strength and power and confidence to experience the evidence of that he's a good man. There's not enough of it happening inside. There's just too many criticisms, too many mirrors and reflections, that not to say they're not accurate, they're just not helpful.
Well, it's not leading, and especially if it's not balanced.
Yes.
Because of course, there's so many ways he is showing up.
And this is the unlock. So this goes to the third point. Most men already know there's a vulnerability. They already know there's fear in there's some weaknesses, and they're doing everything in their power to try to learn their way out of those weaknesses. Men think that if they learn something new, if they just have a different strategy, they can somehow get rid of the vulnerability in themselves. They won't have to deal with it, because that's kind of how society's treated men. You can see it in movies and shows. There's almost a making men stupid and small. And that's all subliminal messaging. There's a lot of dishonoring of men and their power and their biological way of being, which is actually do need more time and space. And there's a way to really open a man up so that he will have the inner movement of standing up and forward in his power. Mm-hmm. But if too many of the mirrors and reflections that are affirming the already feeling small and neglected and alone inside, if that's what's happening, he'll just add to the feedback. He'll add to all the negativities in his performance review, and he will double down on it because it's safer. He has control. I remember this one. This was a big part of my healing, where I realized I was my worst enemy, because my abandonment wounding would feed a quality and vibration of thought inside of me that I would beat myself up way harder than anyone else could, because at least I had control of that. I didn't have control of what others were doing. And I would just beat myself up. And it wasn't until I experienced another man with so much compassion and encouragement and respecting me and my flaws and my humanness that all of a sudden my power came back online. And the key word that there is respect. I was being respected. I was being reassured of nothing's wrong with you. Dude, you didn't learn this. Oh, look at your environment you grew up in. There was so much compassion for my behaviors that it actually helped me feel the love within myself to be able to do the thing I was learning in the books. So I tried to do all the learning in the books, but it didn't work until I got the relationship and the connection where I was actually being respected. So if you're listening to this and you're watching your man and he is in an experience of being hard on himself, lots of shame, getting reactive, withdrawing, you can see certain soothing strategies. The way to bring this man back online is actually do the deeper work. And you might have to dig deep. If there's a lot of collapse and lack of resources, find the strength and the beauty in what is actually real. So does he go to work every day? Does he try hard? Does he show up with the kids? Can you see the trying part? The more you can give these, I call them relational deposits. If you can just give all of the little relational deposits of how well the man is doing and where you can see his good nature and where you see that he cares so damn much that his inner standards are through the roof and the pressure he's wearing, that's actually coming from love. If you mirror those back and you boundary yourself for a season in the micromanaging and the grievances of where he's not providing everything you're wanting and needing, the more you give those positive inputs, he will start to come into more vitality, and you're actually being an ally. You're not caretaking him. You're being in the care of him, and you're helping him come back into his strength. And the more respect that he's receiving and the more that he's feeling from the other side, the more now he will be able to come into that strength, that inner wisdom, and the wanting to offer it back in reciprocity.
Yeah. Yeah, I watch that if I fall off the horse of that with you, how fast we can just lose our footing. Like if I start to get hyper focused on where I'm not being met because I'm triggered, and then I'm not giving enough mirrors of the good, it can spiral so much. And then, but when we both have a footing in that place, it's so much easier even to move through the hard things. Right. And so I feel like I get real time feedback of how important this is. And I think, and this is where, what I talk about is this is the invitation in the feminine to grow up, to mature herself. The part of me that can't do that or won't do that or doesn't feel like you deserve it or whatever, I need to get to know that in myself. What is it in me that isn't able to see that in you, or isn't, what am I not addressing in myself? And that is her invitation. Because ultimately, this is the art she has to learn to be able to tend to this relational garden. And obviously, there's things he needs to learn too to meet her, but this is her part. This is her part.
Yeah.
And Mike, my heart feels so grateful to you for teaching this and sharing this and for embodying it, because it's very refreshing for me to have a man help me understand. And lately I've been having I had some friends come over and we did a grief ritual, and I've been having a lot of grief coming up, and in my oracle offer last night, a lot of grief around just the ways that I didn't know that I was hurting men. And I have a lot of compassion for myself. It makes a lot of sense. I'm not beating myself up about it, but grief around how I didn't know. I didn't know how to do it different, and I was creating hurt. and there was a dishonor. I was in a dishonoring, and just the deep grief about that.
Yeah. Thanks for speaking to that.
Yeah.
It's such a gift to feel that. When I feel, and I can feel, if you're listening, just I'm looking at Courtney's tears. When a man can feel a woman grieving the impact of all those misses and just the difference, it turns back on this part that just wants to provide and protect. Like, oh, thank you. Wow, me feeling you, feeling me in the experience of man, like, is the most healing experience, because it brings me into the felt sense of, oh, I'm not bad. I'm not wrong. I've been trying so hard, and being seen in the, it's been hard because I didn't get it, or because society has labeled sensitivity as weak. When I feel you feeling the grief for all the men that didn't get initiated, for all the men that didn't get mentored into what it actually takes to be an embodied man and what presence looks like, that's the healing.
Well, and when women can realize that they're hurt with the masculine and also us not being initiated in this by like mothers or grandmothers, or, to the full extent we need, or by culture, has created, a really deep dishonoring of a beautiful energy on the planet, and a beautiful embodiment. And I just keep thinking about how nature is wise and nature designed us in a certain way and with certain gifts. And I just feel sad for all the moments that I didn't know how to just honor the gift that was in front of me and hurt the men around me.
Yeah. Thanks for feeling that.
I've been really feeling it. And starting to be able to really see how that's happening all over, and how men are believing it. Their men are actually, I'm starting to be able to see, and then men believe the story. And they can't actually see all the ways they are showing up and what they are offering. And, part of that is their work, but it's also culture's work. It's women's work. It's all of our work.
All of our work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's always there's the work on both sides in adult relationship. We all have work to do.
Yeah.
And when there isn't the love and the compassion or the empathy of what's happening actually at the deeper levels on the other side, we're missing the mark. We're not in adult relationship. We're in the fighting for our own perspective. And then that's what creates disconnect. And so what a gift. Thank you for being a woman who does her work to be able to see the places that there has been hurt. And I'm forever devoted to doing my work to become a full embodiment of safety, so I can offer over the presence to hold all the outrage and the upset and the grief of you being poorly treated by masculine energy. Like, it's horrible. And to normalize or equalize the field, we've all been hurt by that type of energy. Masculine energy disconnected from nature, not feeling seen and respected and trusted, has pushed power into the world through force and domination. And there's a lot to be upset about that, but there's also a lot to grieve. And if we can do what you just did together and start to just grieve where men didn't get those right ingredients to open and stay connected to the heart and lead from that place. Talk about what a gentle way to approach it. And so thank you. Thank you for feeling that. And thank you everyone for listening to even be a part of these conversations, because to highlight what we talked about today, men care. They are trying so damn hard, and a lot of them just don't have the toolkit. They weren't given the map. They don't understand what's happening, and they're needing to feel and receive respect, space, patience for their process, for them to come back into themselves and to be initiated into understanding what the work is for them to cultivate their strength. There's a both and just thank you for doing your work. Thanks for seeing men in that place.
I'm beginning to,
Yeah.
and there's like a lot to feel about it.
Yeah.
All the beautiful men.
Yeah. Who cares so much?
Yeah, I'm starting to see that.
They're trying so hard.
Yeah.
And we're learning what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the greatest gifts that I've had recently is I finally opened up my offering, The Initiated Man, a couple weeks ago. We've had 2 calls, and seeing the men show up and feeling the energy in the room and the willingness, it's very clear men just have been disconnected from motherhood for way too long. And that's why I created the offering. So if you're a woman listening to this, from the place of trust and patience, and not needing to tell him what he's not doing right, but this would be a good way to practice, is trusting in his process, and just from a loving perspective, sharing the link that'll be down in the show notes for The Initiated Man, so that he can receive the support to be able to open up his heart, and we will go at the pace of connection for him. And if you're a man listening to this and something in this really stood out for you, and you feel seen by what was shared, The Initiated Man is a really great avenue to step into support, so that your heart can be the one that leads, not your head.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening. Until next time.